Hey everybody, and welcome to Organizing Content. I did this little presentation as a webinar on Tuesday. Coming up on this coming Tuesday, we have another webinar on the gradebook, so you might want to think about doing that one. But first of all, let's talk about content and how you want to think about putting your content into your Canvas course. So what do you think about when you're pondering your content? First of all, obviously you need to think about the content itself. What does it look like? How is it best presented? How do you organize it typically in a class? And how do you want to organize it in a Canvas course shell? First piece you want to think about is probably the course flow. How do you want your students to move through the content? Does your content sort of naturally divide itself into weeks? Or are other chunks perhaps more appropriate? So do you want some sort of modules or units or sections for the course? My particular course I have set up in 4 different sections. And I picked that number for a variety of reasons, but mostly because that's the way the content is kind of organizes itself. Then you want to think about assignments and projects. If you have weekly assignments, then your course might naturally set itself up as a weekly course. If you have larger projects, it might be easier for you to set up your course so that it's got larger chunks, and your projects can be due possibly monthly, every 3 weeks, whatever, something that works with your course. You also want to think about dates. CMC has varying semester lengths. You may teach in the summer, which is a 10-week semester. You may teach in the fall and spring, which are 15 or 16-week semesters. You may be experimenting with shorter semesters. Every now and then we see an 8-week course. So as you develop your Canvas shell, you probably want to think about developing a shell that is able to move fairly seamlessly between a variety of semester lengths. You also want to think about your schedule. If you know you've got something big going on one particular week, that's not a good week to have due dates. If you know that your students have something big going on during a particular week, you maybe don't want to give them due dates that week either. So think about schedule also when you, both yours and your students, when you're setting up your course. You also probably want to think about consistency. If you have a consistent organization, that's easier on both the learners and on you. Simplifies the development process, but it also just helps you keep track of where you are in the course and what you have your students doing in the course. Sometimes I think consistency makes it easier to tie the learning activities to learning outcomes, and it helps everybody stay organized. When I say consistency, what do I mean by that? First of all, I mean course organization and layout. So I would suggest that every single unit have kind of roughly the same set of items in sort of roughly the same order. So if Module 1 starts with assignments, let's not make Module 2 end with assignments. So kind of try and stay consistent in your organization of the course. And when you put something in one place, if you use the same thing in the next unit, put it in the same place. Personally, I keep my course organized so that the learning activities are pretty much the same, or in the same location. They're not the same learning activities, but they're in the same location physically in the course from module to module, and I'll show you that when we get there. I think it's easier for everybody if due dates and times are consistent throughout the course. I know that's not always possible. I teach a developmental math course, and I have discussions due on Tuesday, I have homework due on Wednesday, and the exams due on Thursday for 5 units. And then there's one that just doesn't work for, and so that's due on a weekend. But if you can keep them consistent, you're more likely to have students that hit your due dates. So what are your options in Canvas for organizing your content? We're going to look at modules. We are going to look at pages, which is the wiki in Canvas. We'll look at the assignment tool, and we'll look at the discussion tool, because those are pretty much the 4 options in Canvas for organizing your course. So now I'm going to go over to Canvas. I'm sitting in Canvas here in the demo course. You should all have access to the demo course. And the reason I set up this course originally is so that everybody could have an easy way to look at what other faculty are doing in Canvas and how they're organizing their courses. So I've imported a variety of modules from other faculty. So probably the #1 way to organize courses in Canvas is to use the module tool. That's the tool that's sitting over here on your left-hand navigation bar. So let's look down. This course is Introduction to Microeconomics. It's a module from a course that I developed and I teach. And all of my modules in my course, as I said earlier, the content falls out into 4 modules, kind of 4 sections. So I have 4 modules, but one built around each section, and they all look the same. So I start every module with an introduction. The introduction is just a page that I built on the Canvas, excuse me, on the Canvas wiki that's aimed at getting students excited about the module. I then include a section of lecture notes, and those are notes partly that I developed and partly videos, excuse me, about the content that I found out on YouTube and other parts of the web for students. So there's lots of information about economics on YouTube and on the World Wide Web, and what I did was choose some of the best ones and collate it for students, rather than make my own videos for each of the chapters. Then I have a set of assignments based around the chapters. These are just a blog that I ask students to do, and I give them 2 or 3 questions about each chapter that ask them to reflect on the chapter as they read it or after they read it. Following that, I have a discussion on a specific topic based on the first 3 chapters. Then I have the second set of lecture notes, followed by the second set of reflections, followed by the second discussion for this module, an overall assignment for the module, and a quiz associated with the module. So each unit, as the student opens them up, will have the same part. So each module includes the introduction, the lecture notes, the reflection assignments, an overall assignment, and a quiz. So very standard, very basic. If we look up here, this is the Word 2007 course that's built by Louis Beatty. It's very similar. He starts out with a document that is some overall comments and from him on the unit. Then he has a Word document that actually has a set of questions that students answer as they read the textbook. Rather than grade that himself manually, he then provides students with a quiz, which is identical to the Word document above. So if the student has completed the Word document, they go in, they take the quiz, they put all the answers in, it's automatically graded, and Lewis has proof that they actually read the textbook. Then he's got a crossword puzzle and then a project. This is a career and tech class, so everything works with a project. And each section of the course, so Word is pretty complex. It's got several projects that go with that, and then he has other. This is actually it's not a Word 2007 course, it's a Microsoft Office course. So everything pretty much looks like this. It's very standard. Once the students get the hang of things, they can go through, they know what to do, everything's in the same order, and at the very end he has an overall assessment on Word and a quiz on Word. And so again, each of his modules in his classes look very much the same, allowing students to kind of plan, to know how much work is going to be involved, and to know where to find things so they don't have to search around as they move on. Got another module here built by George Cornwall. Okay, so George organizes her stuff a little bit differently. She has an assignment in each module. Actually, she has a set of assignments, she has a set of chapter notes, and she's put together vodcast lecture notes for every section in the class. So again, demonstrating some faculty presence, some faculty interest in the course, and helping her students out. So why do we bother to use modules? First of all, I think we use modules because they're flexible. So you can have a module for every week, or you can use any other unit of time that you feel like using. So it doesn't have to be a week, it can be a month, it can be 3 weeks, it can be 7 days, or it can be 11 days, whatever you want. They're very flexible. Modules are also very easy to update. It's very easy to add items to the module. So all you have to do is click on Add Item to the module down here, and you can add something else. It's easy to rearrange things in here. So they're pretty easy way to organize your content and to add additional content. You can have Word files, you can have URLs, you can have assignments, you can have links to the wiki page, you can have links to videos, you can put all sorts of different kinds of content in here. And when you roll things to the next semester, Canvas will actually even help you update the due dates for each module. They're also very linear. Again, It's an easy place to hang content, and because they're linear, they're pretty easy for students to follow along and see what they're supposed to do. It pushes students into looking at the material in a certain order. So kind of keep that in mind, that they're going to tend to start at the top, work down to the end. It doesn't force that, but it does push them that direction. So when you're designing your module, you want to think about your content. You want to think about how many modules you need and what order you want students to go through the content. You want to put the items in the module in the order that you would like students to go through the content. And you can actually insist that they go through the module in order if you want to. And if possible, I think you want to be consistent in activities within each module. In terms of what to include in a module, personally, I think that every course or every module should have some sort of an introduction to tell students why they're interested in this, to maybe tell them what the learning outcomes are, that kind of thing. They should have some sort of lecture notes. We don't want to just tell the students, go read the textbook. We want to do what we would do in class, highlight the parts of the textbook that we find interesting, give them extra material for the parts of the course that we know they're going to have trouble with. The kind of things that you would do in a face-to-face class, you need to also reproduce here in a different format in your online course. You want to have an assessment in here, maybe a discussion, an exam, notes on the reading, things like that. All right. The next piece we have, or next option we have for managing content in Canvas is the Pages tool. That's again over here on the left-hand nav bar. The Pages tool is actually a wiki, so you can build your entire class on the wiki if you want to. There's an example of that in the demo course under the Developing an Online Course module. So if we go there, this course is actually includes a lot of information on developing an online course, so I kind of recommend you go out and read it, whether or not you use the wiki to develop your course. In my course, personally, I use the Pages wiki for random pages, not so much for the entire course, but it could go here. So if you click on Module 1 here, you go to how to plan your course. Now the pages we have to build in, because this is really just a web page. You can link to outside pages, you can link to other URLs, you can actually embed video. In fact, the Pages tool is really handy for embedding video, and rather than just put a random video in a module, I recommend that you put it on a page like this, because then you can have a little information about it at the top and you can have a little discussion about it at the bottom with the video in the middle, so the added interest. And then we've got some navigation that we built in down here, so you can go to the next module. So again, very, very convenient for this, for including lots of information and external links and whatnot. You can actually set up your wiki so that students can edit the pages, and so that you can have conversation about the pages and you can see who's edited the pages. So wikis, like pages, are also pretty useful for group assignments if you do group assignments. Another option for developing your course content is actually the Assignments tool. Now this one is kind of interesting. The Assignments tool and the Discussion tool are both available via an app to students with iPhones. So if anything that you put in the Assignments tool, the student can access from their iPhone, and you can access from your iPhone, and also from an iPad, but from an iPad you can actually access all of the Canvas course pretty easily. But if you think students are actually spending a lot of time accessing the course on their iPhone, you might want to consider including more content on an assignment page rather than just the assignment. So I set up somewhere an example. There we go. So I set up an assignment with an example of how you might do that. I would recommend that you make a little template for yourself and you treat this the same way you would treat a module. So you include a little introduction, which maybe had the course outcomes, a summary of learning activities, maybe some lecture notes in here, and then the actual assignment. So you could treat the assignment page much the way you would teach the module. It's just that it becomes one very long page. I wouldn't like this particularly, except for the access from the iPhone. So if nothing else, I think it's something to consider when you're setting up your assignments. If there is some data or some information that students need that's critical for that assignment, you maybe want to go ahead and include it on the assignment so they have access to it from their mobile, from their iPhone. The exact same thing is true of the discussion. So if you set up a discussion, discussions are also accessible from students' iPhones and from your own iPhone via the app. So for those, you might also want to consider including perhaps more information, including a short lecture before people do the assignments. I just watched a presentation by Curtis Bonk where he suggested you do video discussions. So you have a little bit of information, then you include a video, then you include a little bit of information, and then you have your discussion about that. So he's kind of moved a big chunk of his course and a big chunk of what would be lecture notes over in the modules to the discussion area. Also knew another instructor who pretty much did his entire course from the discussion area. So each discussion had the lecture that he would normally have given in the classroom on the discussions, and you went straight from listen to the discussion, read the discussion, watch the discussion, to talk about the content right away. It was a fairly labor-intensive way of teaching a course, because he then had to be very active in the discussions, but students loved it. It got great feedback, and again, the added value that comes with being able to access that from the iPhone or the iPad easily. So those are kind of the 4 options that you have for content in Canvas. First time through, I have to say I would recommend that you use the module tool, but I think some of these other pieces are worth thinking about, and kind of things you want to put in the back of your head as you design your course, and think about what content goes where you want to put specific pieces of your courses. And keep in mind, you can do added discussion over on the, or added lecture, for lack of a better term, over in the discussion area, and that might spark better discussions for your students. Same thing with using an anchor video on your discussions. That might spark better discussions in your class. So this was the short version of the much longer webinar that we did. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and remember that we're doing Tuesday morning or Tuesday lunchtime webinars for the next month. I'll talk to everybody later.